I would love to see more about some of the things, especially for us entrepreneurs. Please, let's pay attention to this. And then if you are also leading people in your own organization, this is also very important for you as well. I would love us to kind of talk about, number one, people development. Please, this is very critical. When the leader grows, everything gets better. And that's very important. So can you please just share some of your practical insight concerning people development? Because one of the things I've seen working with leaders is that they don't prioritize people development. They don't have systems for people development. They don't have, it's not part of their culture. They just think about training like this, once in a year. Oh, let's send them to just go and have the training. What about internal systems that focuses on people? What do you think about that due to your own experience?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think one of the things I was talking about was scaling hurdles that I experienced. And my first emphasis was around my own personal challenges in scaling. And I came close home to talk about my personal challenges, but I also want to talk about how that impacted the quality of employees that I recruited. So one of the things I noticed was the season where I wasn't as trained, I attracted a certain caliber of employees. In a transition period, much earlier in the business, as the business was growing, I made a decision to recruit a general manager out of LBS. He was in the MBA class, and he was a class rep. So I approached him and I said I was looking for a general manager, and I would like to invite him to come and work at House of Tara. He found it funny because when you finish MBA at LBS, you want to go and work in the big organizations. To then go and work for a makeup artist was what he considered to be less than what he should be doing. One of the things that I did very brilliantly was to share my vision and shared with him what I considered to be the areas that he could bring value, where we were coming from, where we were, and then what contributions I felt his skill could bring. He eventually joined us, but when he joined us, the first thing he said to me was, I think you need to go to LBS. And I was humble enough to accept that recommendation was important. But after going to LBS, I did the OMP program, which is a program for owner managers. And I did it for about, 8 months. At the time, you have to be generating, $500 million naira in revenue. He saw the revenue, but he didn't see that I had the finesse, the business language I didn't have. And it also meant that the quality of people that I was going to attract would be limited. He was responsible for creating our franchise model. If I didn't have that guy, we would not have expanded the way we expanded. 1 year, we expanded to 10 branches simply because of the frameworks that he had created. So I would say to everyone who's in the room here as entrepreneurs, you need to develop yourself so that your people can also rise up to the occasion and you can attract them. The next set of big recruitments I did was 2 people. One of them was working at the time at Diageo. Diageo are the owners of, Guinness. She was working at Diageo, but she had experience in beauty. She worked in beauty in England and came to Nigeria as an expatriate. I invited her to become chief commercial officer at the time. She left Diageo to come and work at House of Tara. We could pay, but it was not enough to be able to pay. It was how was your business positioned? How, as you as the founder, perceived and seen outside the business itself? The second person she was at PwC at the time. She left PwC to come and head as financial director. These 2 recruitments shifted the entire quality of recruitment after that. So my charge to entrepreneurs here is, number one, you have to develop yourself, and you have to be humble enough to go through that process. If you look at my CV, you hear Harvard, you hear Yale, you hear LBS. I did the CEP, the OMP program. CP program is for chief executive officers. It's not just the network, it's also the knowledge that you gain that can transform your thinking and even the culture of your organization. So that's important. But as you are training yourself, you must not leave your people behind. It's as simple as every month at the beginning of the year, design something that says, these are the areas of training that my people will need. This one will help them to do better in their role, but this will help them to do better in their lives. I was very particular about recognizing that people's lives are not only at House of Tara. So at some point, what I learn, I come back to train my people. So every time I go on a training, I come back and design my own design of that same training and train the people so they feel like they went to LBS as well. And oftentimes, my book that's coming out, you hear about how one particular employee said, one singular change that she saw in how I handled humans, the organization, was because of my program at the OMP. So practical, at the beginning of the year, design something that's monthly. Say to yourself, what do I know that my people don't know? Design a template. Train every month. Commit to doing it. If you're a Christian, even commit to teach faith. It's unbelievable how that can be so impactful because people feel that you care about them when you train them.
Wow. Wow. Please, a round of applause. A round of applause. People will definitely know that you care about them when you train them. In fact, it's a love language. One of the things I say every time to entrepreneurs is scaling is a love language. And what does that really mean? It means I am telling you, I am saying, I want you to replace me. I love you so much and I care so much about you. And I want to pour myself into you so that you can replace me. It's a love language. And we've talked about love here today. Talk about care. Mr. Odeyemi took us through that journey. Thank you so much, ma'am. And one of the things that I think she mentioned, because I don't want us to miss that, is our personal growth. We heard about the journey. 3% of our profit every year. There is a budget for that, for leadership growth. I invest in myself, minimum of 3% in different areas. And we can talk about that later. Because we were supposed to have a masterclass part 1 now before we switch into this. But this is very important. I have a second question for you. You talked about processes, systems, structures. So you also talk about people. Just mentioned people development now. So are you saying everything has been super easy for you, seamless, like you just planned it and everything just happened?
Magic.
Can you please just take us through the journey, your challenges and those hurdles?
So I wanted to share a little bit about my process hurdles. Remember that this was a business I started as a young undergraduate in the university, going from house to house doing people's makeup. This is what people need. To now set up a whole business with structure and organizational design, succession planning, corporate governance, setting up a board, was like, how do we move from makeup to this? Through that process, people didn't come to House of Tara to come and be taught about corporate governance. They came to do makeup. They were attracted to ideals of, I can go to do a bride and the glamour of it, but they didn't come to count stock. They were not interested in inventory management. And they were not interested in going through a training program. This was my reality. But I had to ask myself that if this was my vision, as a leader, I have to have the buy-in of my people. So I went through the process of getting their buy-in. Buy-in is as easy as you want to marry somebody, the mother does not like the person, but you are able to marry the person and they agree. That's buying. You want to eat in a particular restaurant. There are 2 of you. The friend says, let's go here. And you say, no, let's go here. The friend decides to go with you. That's influence and buying. Every day we are getting people to believe in things that we believe in. The same way, So as a founder and entrepreneur, you have 10 people who work for you. It is your responsibility to sell the idea to them in a way that they believe that it will be of value to them. Humans are selfish. They have to see the value for themselves. Remember when I was talking earlier on, I said, who are the employees in this room? I want you to know that policies are not made only to protect the company, but also to protect you. Correct? By speaking to the employees that way, I saw their entire posture change in the room. The atmosphere of this room changed because what they now saw was not the rule book. They saw value. And so we have, as entrepreneurs, we have to sit all night. How am I going to communicate this? That I am putting this process in for you, benefit. And that thinking, staying up all night, thinking about it is emotional intelligence. That's part of our own personal development, where you are able to communicate in a way that the person who you're talking to gets what you are saying. It's not enough to just talk. It's important that they change their minds because of what you. So buying becomes very important. And in sitting there with my people, I've come to realize that listening is a powerful skill. When you walk into the room and decide you want to be the last person to speak every time, and when you notice that there are people in the room who are not talking, quickly say, I want to hear your viewpoint. Tell me, what do you think about this? What are your thoughts? And no matter what they say, there's no bad answer. And you also commend them for speaking up, because we don't have a culture of people speaking up here. If you're a big man, it means that when people see you, they don't speak. Some people say it's cultural. Some specific culture is more inclined than others. But not speak people. They say their mind. But unfortunately, if we as leaders don't realize that that's a limitation, we can fall into that. I would say, when you sit in the room, thoughts. You already know what you want. Tell me about what you think. And they start to share. And you keep encouraging them to continue. And every time they speak, you commend them. So I think it's important that you develop yourself, but you also develop your people about it. And when you're creating processes, create process that gets people to get a buy-in. At the last day, remember that the process, sometimes people resist it. And that happened with me. And I had to make a courageous decision, let some people go. What I was basically saying was, I'm not fit for it somewhere. So if you came as a makeup artist and you decided that, listen, I only want to be a makeup artist, I'm not interested in any. Okay, bye-bye. However, the makeup artist who's interested in more, come along.
Wow. Please, a round of applause. Thank you so much, ma'am. Before we have your final thoughts, just to wrap it up, please don't miss this. She says something very critical about everybody shutting up. If you are a manager or you are an entrepreneur, you're the CEO, we know how to act as leaders. How many of us agree? What I just said now, acting as a leader is different from being the leader. Many people have mastered how to act as the leader. That's why when they come in, everybody is shaking. That is what we call system alert. If you look at your workbook, page 14, there is a framework there, adapt model or sustainable change. This step to change leadership and sustainable transformation. We talked about patterns. We've studied patterns. We've recognized patterns. We have used patterns, and we have created a pattern that you can use. That is system alert. Something is wrong in your system that you need to check. They are not the problem. And I know you mentioned that when you were speaking. Check yourself first. And that's very critical. Can you please just share your final thoughts?
I think, let's be clear, there is no entrepreneur who has gotten to where they are without the hurdles, especially when you come to think about scaling. There are hurdles, they exist. Some of them are situational because of the country that we are in. You often hear things like, We don't have a maintenance culture in Nigeria. And when you hear that, it makes you say to yourself, it's not possible. And in some other cases, it's your personal growth that's limiting you. So my charge to everyone who's in this an entrepreneur to say, listen, we have to stick to ourselves, no matter the situation that we find ourselves, our vision is bigger than this. And that vision is what we focus on. Lastly, to everyone who's an entrepreneur, who is an employee of an entrepreneur, I want you to also know that the time that you're spending under this risk taker, because entrepreneurs are generally risk takers, there's so much to learn, so much to absorb. I will say go in there with your thinking cap, your learning cap, to say to yourself, I'm not going to allow any day to pass by without learning. There are many things they teach you in business school. Nothing is as powerful as the things you learn on the street. And entrepreneurs have that experience. So go into that relationship, into that organization that's run by an entrepreneur and say to yourself, I am in university and I'm going to learn. So you may learn the things that you should not do, and you may learn the things that you should. Brace it, where you're thinking, go there and say to yourself, I'm walking out of this relationship if I work out, or in some cases I may become the successor. But how can I prepare myself to be the successor? Every day, think about it. What steps am I taking to become a successor? What are the steps I'm going to take? My organization is thinking that way. How do I position myself? Because we are not all going to be founders. Thank you very much.
Wow, please, a round of applause. A round of applause for our guest speaker. Thank you so much, man.